I'm just thrilled. I'm honored. It's an absolute blessing to be a part of this. I mean, I get to be a party. I ain't gonna be no stupid something. So I'm just
Thank you for rolling with that. Well,
yeah, I love it.
All right. Well, then I'll start and then we'll keep it moving. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Ain't Gonna Be No Stupid. I am here with Dave Kobelin, a clarity coach, and we thought it would be fun to title this Ain't Gonna Lose My 2020 Vision as a play on words from last year and how we hopefully got more clarity as a result of the slowing down of our lives, right? Yeah. Let me talk about how I know Dave, and then it kind of leads into my innocence story, which I always like to start with. Let's do the introductions first. So Dave, I met you last year, 2019.
19,
and,
yeah.
And I, Bishop Ed just said, Amy, you should really do this, this awaken. It would help you with your students. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll fly out there in June. And little did I know that it would just change my life. And you were a huge part of that, Dave. So if you could tell us your elevator speech of what you tell people in terms of what you do.
Absolutely, be happy to. I let people know that I help them understand, discover, and embrace what's truly important to them and why it's important to them, and then what it is that they need to do with that. And I'm learning the more I go, the clearer and more succinct you can get about that, the more powerfully you will move into life. In any area, in your relationships, in your job, whatever it is, and that it all comes down to discovering who you really are and what's really important to you.
Wow. We could pretty much hang it up right now and just call it a day. Hopefully
we'll get it. I was up all night coming up with that. Yeah,
I know you have that one nailed whenever you just say, what do you do? And then, we don't always have an answer for that, right? We think we are the title of our job when really it's much deeper. It's much deeper than that, because I did my vision statement years ago. It said, it was with Lori Beth Jones, like in it might've been the 90s or in early 2000s. It was to provoke, inspire, and prepare people to be true to who they really are. And I'm really into authenticity. And again, just peeling back the layers, right? So this is going to be a fun time together today. Back to my innocent story. I thought, I'll just go out to, June, it'll be nice, go to LA, haven't been there in a while, and I'll go to Awaken. I did the level 1. I had no intention of becoming a life coach myself, but because of that journey, that week was so enlightening for me. It opened my eyes, and the tools that you have for that were so amazing that I innocently joined. I flew back out again in September and October and became a life coach and started my own business and now the podcast. And it's all becoming because of I got clarity on what it is I'm supposed to do. So if you have an innocent story, maybe it could be something that, just to bring you down to the human earth with the rest of us, because you simply seem so clear on your life. It would be nice to know that you were once in the place of confusion or,
oh my gosh,
you know what I mean? Innocence, and, you know what I mean?
I do. And it's interesting because actually day before yesterday, I had a interview. Well, actually, it was just a podcast type where a gentleman called. He's writing a book together with Dave Rhodes, who developed the Younique program. I think I've shared with you about gospel-centered life design. And he's writing a story to inspire others about how to discover their uniqueness. And Dave Rhodes, who I've gotten to know, encouraged him to call and talk to me. So we got to spend about a half hour sharing exactly what you're talking about. And it may be in a book. So I'm kind of excited, I might get to read about my story in a book, which I've never had before, which is kind of fun. But and again, the desire that it could be used to help others, just as you're doing. And I have been a pastor involved in ministry since 1984. And I always tell people, if you cut me, I bleed, pastor, because I love people. And I've had, like you, I had a statement that said that I want to give away to others what God has given to me to help them become all He created them to be. And that was really good. And then about in 2019, the summer of 2019, same time you were walking through what you were, I went to Younique, and it was a week-long accelerator, and it was the most challenging thing that I have done in a long time when it comes to the mental, the spiritual, the sense of really going deep to discover who I was created to be. What's my purpose on the planet? Like I said, I'm a pastor, but with that, I like you, I'm gifted at a lot of things. I can do a lot of things. I have been a practice manager for a veterinary hospital. I've been an office administrator and manager for a 5-physician medical center on Maui. I have worked at a funeral home, and I've been a salesman. I have been a bookkeeper, an accountant. So there's a ton of things I can do and have done at the right time. But I needed to understand, what is it I must do? What must I do? What is the driving force? And this process brought me through and gave me even greater clarity about why I exist. And I have adapted that sentence I shared, and it now is this: Dave Kobelin exists to help people live freely and fully through discovering and embracing who they truly are. And when it comes to the 2 words I use to describe it, it's restoring identity. And that's what I'm here for. Everything that I do, Awaken, I help restore identity. I help both myself and others discover, unlock, unshackle in many ways this identity that they were given before the world was created, but they haven't understood it and been able to step into it. And the greatest joy that I receive is when I see someone like yourself that are able to come and then go through this process, understand it, and then step into it, and voila, here you are.
Yeah, like I was just talking to my last guest, and it's talked about how it's like life seems to be this unpeeling of layers. And then you reveal yourself later in life. The true reveal happens. And I'm thinking, is that really then a part of life? Because we are so conditioned to follow a certain way and a certain kind of conformity, right? And so in that conformity, we lose ourselves, but then after that we rebel and we just want to be who we are. But I think a lot of people don't even get to the point of wanting to be awake, right?
Yeah.
They're sort of just coasting.
Right. And I say it this way: I think that our and it's funny because I label myself an identity restoration specialist.
Like CPR. Oh, you've used that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was. So because I try and find ways that I can describe it, because I understand this. Our identities were stolen from us due to a choice our original ancestor made. The opportunity for us to be who we truly are. There needs to be that born again experience, as we would call it, to be able to have opportunity to begin to step in and discover. All of us have that desire, though. There's something deep inside of us that recognizes we're not living who we were really meant to be. And you're right, a lot of it is conditioned by our society that tells us how we're supposed to look, what our success is supposed to be, how much money, things, everything. That's what's really important. And yet in fact, I've got a client that I'm working with. It's a very successful in sales. And we're working together, and he's establishing his goals. And he goes, Dave, I know I could be the best salesman. I could hit my $1 million mark, and I could have the huge 5,000 square foot house. I could have all the cars. He goes, but I know I wouldn't be happy. I need to know my why. I need to know my why. And I'm going, yeah, that's present in all of us. And so when we can walk through that process of discovering that, it enables us to begin to live in a way that brings fulfillment because we're doing what we must do. And it radically changes and alters that definition of what success is.
Yes.
And I love it. It's just, it has been so much fun. And the more I do it, the more I want to do it.
I know. And then you mentioned the why. And I know a lot of people do these New Year's resolutions. We're in January. And do you think that's why? I know when we tell kids set goals and they don't, achieve them, I think we're missing that piece, right? We're missing the values that go with the goals.
Yeah.
Because if we tell you, oh, you need to set these goals because our organization believes this is successful, then you need to set these goals. When really their goals don't match their why. That's why they don't succeed, would you say, in that?
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely. In fact, I'm speaking next week to a men's group, and one of what I'm going to title is in 2021. It's not when we look at the and when we look at the end of 2021, it's not what we've done, but who we've become.
Oh, you can say that again. I'm telling you.
And so, and as you said, that's it. In fact, it was interesting because as I was thinking about this morning and about that, I thought, you know what, here is kind of what helps illustrate this point. So I have here a nail.
Yes.
So here's a nail. And then I also have a screw. So when I get clarity about what these are and what needs to be done with them, then I understand what needs to be done. However, I need the right tool. I need to have the right tool for the right problem. So if I take this screwdriver with this nail and, I might be able to do it, but I'm going to be so frustrated and angry because it's not going to work. It's going to slip. It's going to hit my hand, and I'm going to just never really work the right way. But if I have this with this,
the hammer,
it is like the hammer with the nail. That's what its created purpose is for, is to put this nail where it's supposed to go so it performs its purpose. And the screwdriver with the screw. Many times I have found when we live life, we think that we're a screwdriver and we're trying to hammer nails with it. We're actually, when we discover we are a hammer, now all of a sudden it's like, I get it.
Yes.
It stops being frustrating. And so much of that is the why. The why behind it. It just ties in that I'm here to be able to help the nails do what they're supposed to do.
I love that metaphor. I have some metaphors here I wanted to dive into, but before I do that, how do you help people find their why without obviously giving us a free inside? How does
Sure. And I think you mentioned it. A lot of it's beginning to mine their values. Again, their passions, what's really important to them, that begins to give you a window into what they're created for. Their abilities. Also, many of us are born with particular abilities. We're given abilities as we grow and things we're particularly adept at. For me, for instance, you can generalize and say, guys, they just love talking about cars and everything that's awesome. I can't stand cars. I mean, I push on that one pedal on the right and it goes. I push on the one on the left, it stops. And if I'm driving a standard, I know how to shift. Yes. But when it comes to opening up and looking under the hood, I go, I don't care.
I know.
But I always felt like I'm supposed to. Oh yeah, the shafts and I'm not passionate about that.
Right.
So I know I was not meant to be an auto mechanic. Right. So I know that for sure. Some people are.
Right.
And when you begin, they have a gift at being able to see it and understand it, and then understanding the context in which those passions and abilities are most effectively lived out.
Mm,
For instance, I would say if I know you're a teacher, if I would look at what brought you to that point, passions, abilities, and then context in that classroom, in those things, and in doing this, what you're doing. All of a sudden, who you are begins to rise up and go, this is me. So what I do is I help people identify those values. I help people identify those passions and then their abilities. And then I help them use their God-given imagination to dream
I love
about
it.
what expressing those most effectively might look like, and then help them find a way that they can do that.
I think you brought in a good point that I think people sometimes think a coach is somebody who tells you what to do, or a counselor tells you what to do, but you
Right.
have a brilliant way of facilitating that process. So the answers are truly just found within. The person
Yeah.
answers their own question, right?
Yeah, they do. You're exact. And that's my favorite part of coaching. Honestly, my absolute favorite part is at the end of the session, because again, in a coaching session, I'm not there to give advice. I'm not there to give, even when asked for it, I don't. Because the vast majority of the time, the answer the person wants is already present. They just need to discover it and have it be unlocked and awakened inside.
Yeah.
And what I love doing is at the end of a session, I come out and these people, they've understood, they've gotten excited, they see where they want to be, and they've begun to develop a plan that they can step out to. And they're so excited, and they just stop and they go, man, I'm really smart. And I said, yeah, you really are.
Right, because the answers are here inside
Because
of
they're
you.
there. And again, we've been conditioned so much of the time, and like you said, is, oh, people have told us we're dumb, we're not smart enough, we can't do it, etc. And we watch, if we watch any social media, or you go on and everyone's perfect on Facebook, everyone's perfect on Instagram, the things, and you just go, God, I'm never going to be that.
I
And
know.
so you just have this idea and image about yourself that you can't do it. But when you have someone that can come alongside and help you understand, yeah, you can, just that excitement begins to build, and confidence. So yeah.
Yes. Oh, good, Dave. Let me tell you, I had an eye exam this week, and it was just by accident. And I thought about, well, what is an eye exam, right? They're talking about 20/20 vision. Like, so let's look literally at an eye exam, and let's see if we can think metaphorically here. Okay. So there's 6 tests that they do, right? They do the visual acuity test, which is one eye at a time. And then they have the retinoscopy test, which shines the light, asking you to look off into the distance. And then they have the I don't know how to say this one. Keratometry test, how your eye perceives and reflects light, so it can measure the curvature of your eye, with like if you have an astigmatism or not.
Wow.
I know, it's funny. I have curves in my eyes because I have curves because I have an astigmatism, so I realized that. And then it does a peripheral vision test, right? And then the extraocular pressure, the glaucoma test, right? The puff in your eye, right? We know that one. And I just thought about, is there anything of those tests? I also think too about some people that are at a problem and they're too close to the problem. They don't see it because they're too close. And I think just backing up and seeing big picture solves a lot of problems. So I guess, I don't know, where am I going with this? I just see a metaphor that if we really truly want to see clearly, we have to sometimes let someone shine the light in our eye, right?
Absolutely.
And it hurts, right? Or the puff of air needs to, like, oh, that was so uncomfortable, but you needed it. You needed it to get that clarity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to steal that from you.
Okay, so you go ahead. I'll send you the link.
Interesting, because one of the illustrations that I use about what I do is exactly, once you have it, and then you need to go and figure out what your prescription for your glasses are going to be. That big, huge machine they put you up to, and they go, click 1, click 2.
Yes, that's
you flip it.
That's the refraction test. Yep.
Yeah, click 2.
Yeah.
That's what a coach does. It helps you say, what's this? Is this clear here, or is it clear here? Oh, it's over here. All right, let's go explore there. So is this clear here or clear there? Oh, that's it. And that's the process of clarity. So finally, at that point, he does the one thing where he goes, whoosh, and it goes, whoosh, and you go, oh, I can see.
It's such a great metaphor. Oh, I love it.
It works. And that's
let me ask you this then. Have you ever had to work with, which I'm sure you maybe have, but I mean, if somebody's coming to you for coaching already, they're obviously they're open. But have you
Yeah.
ever had a situation where, or how often, or what, can you tell us one specific scenario without, revealing the person, that they just were blocked and they just didn't want to look there. They didn't want to go down that path when you said, let's explore over here. What happens
Yeah.
in those scenarios when somebody is like, oh, no, 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 I'm not going to that door?
Yeah, that's a good question. And yes, I have had that. Um, Generally, I guess here I'll start with worst case scenario and work backwards. Worst case scenario, and what I found, had one client that thought they wanted coaching, but really didn't want coaching. They needed counseling because they kept wanting to go to their past, to the problems, the issues, and dissect and break those apart, which is really important at times. And if you need counseling, they're fantastic. That's awesome. But that is not coaching in the realm of we deal with a future orientation, a solution focused orientation, and we go to the past only to find those really positive experiences that we can bring forward. So this person just simply could not enter into the sense of wanting to look forward in a positive way. They just kept wanting to look backwards to the events and the challenges and the problems that had shaped and formed them. So at that point, I said, hey, it seems like at this point, what you more need is a counselor. And I said, and that's great. If you do that, then we're able to, if you get to the point where we're ready to go forward with this, then that's great. That's kind of, I call it worst case, but it's best for them because they got what they needed. Many times, though, it's just that simply people have never been given permission to dream. They've never been given permission to believe really in themselves in a way that they can believe I am smart, that I am. And so they tend to get stuck. Oh, I can't. And one of the things in coaching we talk about, if they say, oh, I just can't do that, is just to be able to say, well, if you could, what would that look like? And they
That's
kind of
such a
go,
great question.
because again, it's like, oh, you mean I actually, because our default is, oh, I can't. Oh,
Right.
I just can't do it. Well, what if you
Right.
could? And then I'll also use if you remember Staples, they had the easy, big red button, easy button. If you hit
Yes.
it and the whole project goes gone, I
Yes.
just say, well, let's hit the easy button
I love
and you're
that.
doing it.
Mm.
What does it look like? And many times it's just that sense of giving them permission and they do it and they go, oh my gosh, I actually can do this. In fact, that was pretty easy and fun.
Oh,
And so then it begins to birth that process.
oh, I have a couple metaphors that came up, a cliche, and then I want to also get into our nation. We could talk
Yes.
about
Yeah.
what we
Oh,
could use some of this technique with our
oh my
nation,
God.
right? So let's
Yeah,
say
absolutely.
you made me think of, you've heard of you have children, and did you ever have your child not want to have their poopy diaper changed?
Mm.
They just want to sit in it. They just want to sit in their stank, right? And so that's what I always think about people that are stuck in the past. They just want to sit in their
Yeah.
stinky diaper.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
another thing it made me think of is when you were talking, and I've heard this in sermons, but in case for the unchurched, we're going to give them a little church.
There we go.
In a car, when you're driving, you have a big windshield to see forward, and you have a rear view mirror that's really small. And so that rear view mirror, yeah, you got to know what's behind you, but
Wow, I
the
love it.
the
Yeah.
vision is really in the front, right?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
thought about that when you were talking. But let me think about
Excellent.
this. Yeah, let's think about, you said we talked a little bit earlier about how our nation has lost its vision. And
Mhm.
what is it we can do with the nature of what's going on in January 2020?
Yeah.
What just happened at the Capitol? What is it we can do to maybe, where there is chaos, I always believe there is always going to be redemption and restoration.
Yeah.
What do you think if you were going to coach the U.S.?
Yo, wow, there you go.
No
Uh,
pressure.
well, and again, it's interesting you say that. I would ask the U.S. to go to its values, and its values are most clearly represented in its founding documents.
Mm,
And the fact, the further we stray away, John Adams said that this government is meant and can only function with a religious and moral people.
mm,
Apart from that, it and we're seeing his words come true. because we have moved away from the values of which we were founded upon. And again, what happened last week, I think, is just a continued indication of what's been happening all year long, with all the riots, all the destruction, all of the anger and hatred, and so many things that are going on in terms of there's a lot of issues. And we've talked before too, is, what you focus on, what you think about, what you look at, you're simply going to get more of.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we're choosing to focus and try and get clarity around the wrong things. Again, if we just look at our problems, and we have problems that need to continue to be, but we need to say, what is it moving forward positively together? What's the solution we can come up with that is going to honor and reflect our values and include all of us, and not continue to look back at all of the failures? We need to learn from them. But it's just that illustration. If you keep going to that scab on your arm and just pick at it and pick at it and pick at it, all you do is continue to make it worse, and continue to cause there to be so much more pain and so much more just not good for your body. And it's not about covering things up, it's about healing them so that then we can move forward. So I would say, what are our values that we share together? And I think that's where we have lost the conversation. And there's a lot of reasons for that in terms of the voices that we choose to listen to. But I think the ability, and that I have found, because I have great friends on both sides of the political spectrum. And the vast majority of them that I know, we can discuss the issues.
Yeah.
And we don't scream at each other. We don't yell at each other. We don't hate each other.
Exactly.
And we don't spit at each other and
Yes.
beat each other up.
Yes.
But when you, at some level, and that's where I believe it is a spiritual issue. In fact, I think if you would bring it down to the core, is that's it. It is a need for individual redemption, individuals to receive the love they were created in, so that we can then love others. Because without that, there's going to be no way you cannot legislate it ever, ever.
Right.
You can't do it through the media ever.
Right.
It will fail, but it has to be a heart at a time. And we have to find those common values that we can share. And I don't think many we're that far apart, but I think there are organizations that want to drive us apart because it benefits their agenda.
Right.
And so I think we need to have more discussions, have more people that are willing to say, what is really important to me as a citizen of this country, and how can I move forward? I know this Monday we celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday. What a great person to be able to look at and say, talk about clarity. When you say, I have a dream, there is stepping into every coaching principle we use, which is, I have a dream, I have a vision, and here's what I see. If I think we all share, most of us share that dream and want to see it. And I think that vastly outweighs all the extremists that would try and pull us in either direction.
And you did, yeah.
There's I hope I answered the question in there
somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I don't want to get all political, but it's like there's a perception that people that follow the Republican Party are Christian. Therefore, the people that storm the Capitol are Christian. Therefore, that is, that is not what we stand for, right? And this book, Daniel Hill, White Lies, and he also wrote White Awake. Really good book, really good book about, just the white supremacy and how we have to really dismantle that in order for things to be calm, to live the Martin Luther King dream, right? Judging people by the content of the character, not by the color of their skin. So yeah, I hear you. And then he was gunned down in his 30s. At 30, was he the same age as Jesus? Was he 33?
I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I don't.
Yeah, I just think
age.
it's insane. So, but yeah, it really breaks my heart. But at the same time, whenever I see destruction around me, and if people are putting their faith in a human to save them, that is when that's the slippery slope. you are losing
Mm.
it. And I love what you said too. And I've been saying it all year. We need to look at ourselves and how we roll in our circle right around the people that we know. And that is going to have that domino effect, right? And so everybody,
Yeah.
if we haven't reflected in 2020, which is why we're not going to lose our 2020 vision, we can
Yeah.
reflect in 2021. It's never too late, right?
Beautiful. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting, and love your thoughts on this. One of the reasons I deactivated my Facebook account, I deleted my Twitter account.
Mhm.
I cannot support censorship, and
Mhm.
that's what I see them doing. And I feel that is one of the most dangerous things we have happening in terms of shutting down free speech. Free speech is dangerous. It always has been. It always should be.
But
In order for it.
isn't it like this, they're shutting down the yelling fire in a movie house, right? They're shutting
Yeah,
down
and I
more than they're
would
shutting down free
I
speech.
wouldn't. Yeah, see, I would disagree in terms of the content of what's being said.
Mm.
You cannot hold any individual accountable if they are not specifically shouting fire. People may interpret that they're shouting fire, but that's where the danger is. I believe very strongly people need to be able to speak very loudly to a group of people in a building that they're building as a fire trap, that they should look at it, consider it, and get out of this before the fire erupts. I think that's what they're doing, in my opinion, what we're seeing happen. And I have, some of my history. I spent 5 years in Russia, and I have a lot of connection with people that have had a lot of experience with censorship, and they're scared to death right now of
Yeah.
what's happening in our country because we're shutting down. It's not just one person. It's a whole group of an opposing viewpoint against an ideological belief held by those who control their business. They can do what they want with it. That's what I believe. You should be able to let people and speak just like you should in any business.
Mhm.
That's your business. However, my choice is whether to support it or not. And if I feel you're violating those, then I won't. So having said that, now I'm trying to figure out where I was going with it because I know I had some.
You shut down Facebook and Twitter because they're taking away free speech.
Right, I did
And a
that, but then
is one world order considered prophecy though? Is that not going to happen before the end of the world, or is that
I'm sure.
inevitable?
Yes, yeah. If you want the theological implications of it, yeah. And like I said, I know what it was. Here it is. Thank you. You helped me bring it back. When we were growing up, and I'm a little bit older than you, so I can frame it a little even better. My world was my neighborhood, my school, the people that I was involved with, and then every once in a while, my larger city. And then if I watched the news, I would see or read a newspaper. My world was big enough there. The concerns that I had were big enough there. Now, because we have access 24/7 to everything going on in every part of the world, all of a sudden we think, I have to be responsible for what's happening in Washington, D.C. That's my responsibility. I have to carry it all. No, you don't. What are you going to do? I mean, honestly, I think about that. I can pray effectively if I can pick up the phone, maybe call, but I can't do anything about that. So why do I feel now the burden there? And then all the reaction, what's going on in China? They're killing, there is massive persecution of Christians and other faiths by the Chinese communists because they're shutting down anybody that speaks against them. Now, should we carry an understanding for that? Yes, do something. But the problem is in our world today, we have it all the time. And so I think that is why we're seeing such high levels of anxiety, high levels of depression, that, and couple it with, like we were talking about, you see the perfect person on Facebook, Instagram, and that's not me. So I've got to do more to get more followers and more things. And then so there's so much. And so part of it, the censorship pushed me over the edge. Yeah. But I was getting ready to come off of it just about anyways, because it hasn't done me any good.
Well,
it just hasn't.
Yeah. The Daniel fast, everyone fasts from food, and I like to fast from social media. because
Yeah,
or
that's a
television
great.
or news,
Yeah.
just in general.
Yeah.
I get, you know what? I get the news without watching the news. People tell me about it,
No.
you know, so I'm like,
Oh, and
okay,
that's
I don't need, I can still be shut my eyes and try not to pay attention. And I already know because it's all around me anyway, even if I'm not even consuming it,
and
right?
that's it. And I'll tell you what, since I've shut both of those down, you know how much I've missed them?
Nothing. Isn't that great?
I'll say this. I miss seeing my friends.
Yeah.
I miss seeing the joy in their lives of
Yeah.
good things that are going on.
Yeah.
But it is so overshadowed because if I see something, I start to think about it, and I'll think about it and think about all the different, well, they don't, if they understood, because one of my things, which is both a deep value, but can also be a problem, because every strength we have, if taken to an extreme, can become a weakness. And so I'll start thinking about, well, if these people know that's unfair. That's unfair. They're not presenting both sides in a proper, balanced way. That's what we need to have, is we need to have balance. Both sides presented, not one being more important. There needs to be balance, according to me.
Okay.
And of course, I'm right. So there, that's basically it. And so I do it, but they're not doing it. Well, they need to. Oh, and it just eats me up. And I'm going, what good does this do?
Yeah.
I mean, again, and so what I've been finding I've had more time for now is prayer. I've had more time for actual human interaction. Oh my gosh. And for being able to go on a run or a walk with my daughter. And I'm like going, wow, so maybe this is what I was created for, as opposed to constantly staring at a screen, finding out things and hearing from people that are just angry about so much. And so that's, so bringing it all around to clarity.
Yay.
What's important, bringing it important for who I am is that sense of, and for me, it's peace. Peace is one of my most underlying values. And that peace comes from living from who I am and feeding myself the things that are going to encourage and enable that peace, as well as so that I can live in such a way that I'm going to love people.
I love
and
it.
not be angry at people, and
So
be able to help people that are different than me, so I can listen to them and their viewpoint, as opposed to being so concerned about making sure they understand me.
Exactly. And that listening piece is so key. But you just said, if I was your enemy, I would try to steal your piece as much as I could then, wouldn't I? So knowing that's your value, right? Think about that for a minute. So the minute you're losing your piece, you got to really recognize, okay, what are the tricks? What's happening? So kind of like, I want to lighten it up now, if I can. I'm going to lighten it with one little imagine if question that I just found in my pile. I don't know if you ever played this game, Imagine If, but it's cool. It fits our theme. Imagine you were something to look through. Okay. And then this is metaphorical.
Yeah.
If you could look through something, there's 6 choices. What would you be? You would be a telescope, sunglasses, reading glasses, binoculars, safety goggles, or rose-colored glasses. And I can read it again. I can read it again. Wow. Can you see this?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, I can see it.
Okay. You got it?
Yeah, I do. I actually, and it's interesting because you said it. For me, it was either going to be, and I'll show you. It was either going to be this
magnifying glass. I don't even have it as a choice.
No,
that's truly.
Or it was going to be a telescope, and I think honestly, it would be a telescope, because I want to help people see both. I guess I mean all of the above even, but in terms of I want to be able to, I have found most effectively I help people when they're able to look into the distance and see who they want to become, see who they want to be, because I think that lies deep in each of our hearts is I can be better. I can be a better fill in the blank. And I think if I can help myself and other people see that, understand the why, and then begin to give them a process where they can begin to step into that, myself included, you know what, I'm going to go to bed and sleep pretty well.
I love that, Dave. This has been such a blessing having you. I appreciate you. I feel like I just got some free coaching.
well, me too. Right back at you. No, this is great. This is
Oh.
great. You're really good at this.
Well, so even though since you left social media, can we still find you somewhere? I'll put it in the notes, but where can we find you?
LinkedIn. I'm still on LinkedIn, and I'm still on Instagram too.
Okay, I'll put that in the
I'm
notes.
still
then.
on Instagram. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy, Dave. Thank you. But go for a run and spend time with your kids and your
I'll
wife.
do it. I'll do it.
All
All
right.
right. Enjoy. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks so much.